It's the Sports Nightly Preseason Top 25. Tonight,
Slovis in trouble this time. Steps back, scrambling. Fran Tarkenton style. Lets it go. Touchdown! Drake London, the other freshman.
number 25, USC Trojans.
Then we have the Trojans at number 25, and here to tell us all about USC, Antonio Morales from The Athletic. Antonio, thank you for being with us. Just give us an update. What's happening right now? Or is the team doing the voluntary workouts? What are they doing out at Southern Cal?
Yeah, they've kind of broken it down into phases. There was phase one for athletes who lived within an hour of USC's campus. So that started last month. Then earlier this month, it was returning student athletes. And then later, like last Monday, it was athletes who weren't local and freshmen. So they all came back, and now the whole team's back. Obviously, California, you can't work out inside of a gym, so they've been doing voluntary workouts. They've been doing them outside on USC's practice field. So that's kind of the state of things right now. Obviously, the Pac-12 has put a pause on when practices could actually start. So nobody knows when that's going to happen. But for now, USC is doing their voluntary workouts, and most of the athletes are back.
Antonio, the Pac-12, like the Big Ten, is going to go conference only. Is that schedule set yet, or are the teams still waiting for that? What that schedule is going to look like?
The teams are still waiting for that. The conference has said they'll announce that schedule by July 31st at the latest. So within the next week and a half or so, everybody should kind of know what the schedule looks like for each team.
Yeah, same kind of with the Big Ten here for Nebraska as well. All right, all the uncertainty, this is perfect for USC, right? I mean, because that's what this program's kind of lived under the last year or two, with the uncertainty about Clay Helton. But he certainly tweaked that staff a little bit. Update me on what he did in the offseason to try to upgrade his coaching staff.
Well, the defense had slipped a lot last year, and it was a really subpar performance. And I think that was highlighted down the stretch of the season, and you guys have seen Iowa. You know it's not a really prolific offensive team, but they manhandled USC, and they scored 49 points against USC in the Holiday Bowl. And after that game, Clay Helton fired his defensive coordinator, Clancy Pendergast, and their search lasted about 2 or 3 weeks. They talked to some big-name guys, and they ended up getting Todd Orlando, the former Texas DC, who was fired at Texas, but he did have some success at Texas, even though it didn't end well. He did have He did do a lot of good things over there, and they just overhauled the defensive staff considerably. They hired a new defensive line coach, 2 new secondary coaches, and Orlando's taking over at linebacker. So the defensive staff's all brand new, and there's plenty of talent on defense for USC. They returned 9 starters, I believe, on defense, and a lot of 4 and 5-star guys there. So it's a matter of just getting the most of that talent. Last year, it really wasn't a disciplined group. So it'll be Orlando's kind of task to get some more discipline and consistency out of that defense.
I know they didn't have a spring ball to go through, but is he going to schematically change a lot of what they've done in the past? What is he a 4-3, 3-4 guy? What is Orlando?
I think he's usually a kind of a 3-down lineman, 4 stand-up guys type of front. USC has Drake Jackson, who could be that outside linebacker type defensive end hybrid. He's one of the best players on USC's defense. When he was just a freshman last year, he led the team in sacks and tackles for loss. So he has some talent to build around defensively, and up front especially, and in the secondary with Talanoa Hufanga, who's a true playmaker at safety. So there's some talent to work with. I expect they'll be aggressive, just like they were last year. But it'll look a little bit different with Todd Orlando.
Again, busy with Antonio Morales of The Athletic. We've got USC at number 25 in our preseason top 25. Let's go to offense. No quarterback controversy, right? Slovis is definitely the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I think most people expected there to be a competition with Keaton Slovis and JT Daniels. I think most people thought JT Daniels. I don't think many people expected JT to win the job, but I think most people expected him to compete for it. And then maybe he'd transfer after the end of the season if Slovis started, because he would still have 2 years to play too. But obviously COVID-19 has changed the whole dynamic of the season and stuff like that. So he opted to transfer before the season started, and he's at Georgia now with immediate eligibility, and that's left the door open for Keaton Slovis. I think the big concern, though, is Slovis got banged up quite a bit last year. He got knocked out of the Utah game early with a concussion, and he got knocked out of the bowl game with a elbow strain. And USC only has 2 scholarship quarterbacks. So there's a bit of a concern there among USC's fans. If Slovis can stay healthy behind an offensive line that hasn't been great in pass protection the past couple of years, and there's only one other quarterback behind him. So there's some questions in terms of depth, but Slovis had a stellar freshman season last year and has a lot of promise.
Sure did. Antonio, when I think of USC football, I think of tailback U. Just all those great running backs that they've had down through the years. So I did a double take when I looked up last year's numbers and saw SC was 118th in the country running the football. Can they be better? They're going to have to be better than that this year, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they can be, but I think it's going to depend a lot on health. Last year, in the last month of the season, you saw Keaton Slovis's attempts go up, and that coincided with the top 3 running backs getting hurt all around the same time. They had Marquise Stepp, who was really coming into his own last year towards the middle of the season. And when it finally came like his turn to really take the group and take the most carries, he tore ankle ligaments and kept him out for the rest of the season. And the other running backs got banged up, and USC ended up having to play a true freshman, Keenan Christian, who – they had planned a redshirt, but he got forced into the starting lineup, and he's only like 185, 190 pounds. So it was a lot to ask of him to kind of carry the load from week to week. So you saw Keaton Slovis's attempts go up and USC's rushing totals go down, and it never really kind of balanced out after all those injuries.
Well, Antonio, when we kind of broke down the Pac-12 South, we kind of saw it as a battle with USC, Arizona State. Handicap it for us. How do you see the race for the South playing out if we get to play football here in a few months?
That's exactly how I see it. I know a lot of people will mention Utah, but Utah lost a lot from last year's team. They lost their best defensive lineman with Bradley Nye, and they lost the heart of the offense with Zach Moss and Huntley at quarterback. So there's a lot to replace for them. So USC returned 17 starters, and there's 8 on offense and 9 on defense coming back. And Arizona State, they still have some skill players to replace, but I'm really, really high on Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to be really, really good. You saw what he did. Most of the people nationally saw what he did against Oregon last year, and Arizona State beat Oregon. A lot of that had to do with Jaden Daniels, and that pretty much kept Oregon out of the playoff. And, so he has really big potential. He was hurt for the USC game last year, but it's interesting because he's from Southern California and starts for Arizona State. And Keaton Slovis grew up pretty close to Arizona State, but he starts for USC now. And so it'll be an interesting matchup when the 2 teams play this year. I would peg those 2 as the 2 best teams in the South, but I would give the edge to USC just because they're a more experienced team overall.
And as the schedule sat when we sat down to do this, that's a home game for the Trojans. I guess they could flip that, they could change it, but we'll just sit back and wait and see. Antonio, we certainly appreciate great insight on USC. Hopefully we have some games for you to cover here in a couple months.
Yeah, I hope so too, and I hope the same for you guys as well in the Big Ten.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.